All right, we'll go ahead and get things going here. So my panelists, if you can come off of video mute and sound mute, we are ready here. We are. Perfect. Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Wanted to go ahead and kick things off, get our second discussion going. For those of you that joined us the last time, thank you. We did our initial panel discussion back in June. This is our second panel discussion. And we are very excited to have three new panelists with us today. So again, my name is Larry Green. I work at Google. I oversee all the health and wellness operations globally at Google. So I wanted to welcome all of my Google colleagues that are out there, as well as all of our friends from Facebook that are out there. So really excited that everybody is there to see and participate today. I also wanted to say a special hello to my partner, Sarah Caney from Facebook. She's on the back end helping us out here. She's going to be the one that's helping us with questions. So as we get into our discussion, there'll be an opportunity for all of you to ask questions. You can just drop them in the chat, and Sarah is going to be helping me out just with getting those there and sending over to the panel. And again, thank you to the panel, but also thank you to the audience for some of the early questions that you have put in. I know had some good voting activity there, and to the panel, we got a handful of questions that we'll jump into in a minute. So with that, I wanted to just do a quick round of introductions, and with each introduction, each panelist is just going to share a quick opening thought to get ourselves warmed up. And so the first person that we have is John Lewis. Right there with Hungry for Justice is the name on his screen there. He's a vegan athlete, and he's a director of the upcoming film They're Trying to Kill Us. And I love that title. It's definitely a hook. It definitely catches your attention and engages you in the conversation. He's a social media influencer as well as an entrepreneur. Welcome to John. Quick opening thought for you.
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for the invite and for being here yourself. I'm sure you could be doing a million other things and listening to three other vegans talk about what we got going on. So really, really thankful for everyone and thankful for the invite. And can't wait to have an engaging conversation of what's going on and how we can improve what's going on.
Perfect. Thanks. Next, we have Jasmine Levaya.
Leva.
Leva, thank you. Thank you. Jasmine Leva. And she's an actress and a filmmaker of The Invisible Vegan. And that's a great documentary that is out there as well. Welcome, Jasmine.
Hello, everyone. So just to piggyback off that, I directed the film The Invisible Vegan, partially because when I was looking at the way mainstream veganism was presented, I'm like, hold on, y'all, you guys are missing huge segments of the population and kind of gearing your material to the same crowds. And so even just being on this panel today and seeing the way this vegan panel looked in comparison to what we probably would have seen 20 years ago, it just makes me proud to be here. And I'm happy to, I can't wait to hear where this discussion goes.
Great, thanks. And then last we have Derek Morgan. Derek Morgan is a former NFL Tennessee Titan, played for the Titans there, but now he's retired from the NFL and he's the managing partner of the Kingdom Impact Fund. And welcome to Derek.
Thanks for having me. I don't want to take up too much more time. Really glad to be a part of this discussion, hoping that we can get some real engaging discussion topics. I'm only here because my wife is a chef, a vegan chef, and she makes my life very easy. So I'm glad to be a part of the conversation.
Great, thanks. Cool. And so again, to all of our viewers and listeners that are out there, if you have questions, you can go ahead and just put them into the chat. And while that's happening, I want to just kick things off just with a quick discussion point between the four of us on the topic of systemic inequality. And so at first glance, when we put this panel together, you have the domain of plant-based eating, you have the domain of social justice, and you have the domain of sustainability. So at first glance, one might not necessarily know that, okay, is there a connection between those three things? Okay, can you really jump into interesting conversation when you look at them in isolation, maybe, maybe not. But if you level up and think about, in my opinion, the framework of in the history of how America was established, it was set up on systemic inequality. Take slavery, for example, is one. The economic model of how America was built, the justice system. Like there's a bunch of different ways to jump in there with that. And so when you level up for a minute and you think about plant-based eating, period, you know, the healthy way to eat, and that quickly gets into healthcare versus sickness care and like what the business models around that. When it comes to sickness care or disease care, from a business point of view, it is a more profitable adventure, but it is at the expense of human health. And then if you go upstream with how you eat, eating healthy, plant-based eating, that's a way to prevent yourself from being sick or being sick for a prolonged period of time. And then if you jump over to social justice, all the things that are going on this year, which didn't just start happening this year, it's just more visible, I would say this year, but it's a quick snapshot of a lot of things that have happened over the course of history in America in a lot of different ways. And so if you look at that, again, that's another example of systemic inequality. And then with sustainability, that's almost like the output of those types of behaviors and patterns. We end up hurting the environment that we actually live in just because of the choices that, we make on a day-to-day basis at that level. And so with that, I just wanted to just start off with any of you, any just initial thoughts that you have either on that topic or just from the thing that you've been doing, any opening thoughts or any things on that.
Look at you starting off all light.
We only got an hour, so we just got to jump in.
So
I'm thinking ladies first, Jazz.
Tackle that. Okay, so I think an important part of my work was to help point out that there was even a problem. Because when you talk about systemic inequality in the food system, a lot of people didn't even understand that there can be racism in the food system, that there can be racism embedded in, how we are set up to live. And so when I used to hear vegan people kind of promoting the message like, oh, just go vegan, it's so easy. I'm like, wow, there's really a lack of awareness about what people are going through. And when you say things like, oh, you could just replace your hot dogs with Beyond Meat. And I'm like, Beyond Meat, as good as it tastes, that's like $10 for 4 sausages. Think about how many hot dogs someone who doesn't have money can get with that same amount of food. So I think a part of it is just showing people that, look, this problem exists and we need to do something about it, because a lot of people, they don't even know it's a problem. So how can we come up with a solution?
Any other thoughts?
I think to go along with that is that a lot of people don't realize that, what was put in place years ago, centuries ago, while it still goes on, it just has a different face now. And I think that's what people fail to realize. They think racism, they think slavery, chains, beatings, lashings. It's like, no. The same system is in place. It has a different face now. What used to be, we would hang you from a tree is now we'll put a knee on your back. It's different things in different places. A lot of people don't understand that police were invented to catch runaway slaves. So if you think about the system and why it's in place now, Black people aren't as surprised at what's going on. So then when you look at the food system, what was given to the slaves, the entrails, the horrible parts of the animal. If you ever want to think about a slave, one thing they knew not to touch was to go touch the fruits and vegetables that they were growing for their owners. Because that was the gold mine right there. You want to get a lashing, you want to get beat, go touch that crop that you're growing. And that's where it's still in this place today. The food that we eat, that they ate back then, now we have to look at what was going on right now, the problems that we're having, the health issues that we're having, the health disparities that are happening because of food. And it's all engraved in this racist system that was set in place a long time ago. And I know a lot of people always say, well, white people, that it happens to them too. It's like, yes, but if you're not a part of that 1%, you're just collateral damage at that point. If you're not a part of the rich genre that's making all this money, I think we talked about this too, Larry, like offline. You got to remember that the pharmaceutical industry is a $1.3 trillion industry. 3 trillion. If 10% of the people, because we do understand that medication is needed in certain instances, but there's a lot of times when some kind of change within a lifestyle can keep you off that medication. If 10% of those people got healthy, the whole industry would implode, because as drastic as it is, people don't realize 10% of 1.3 trillion is $130 billion. The whole system would implode. They don't want a healthy America. They don't want people to get better for themselves. That's just one little instance where you see it, and it's so many more.
Yeah, yeah. I think about power and money when it comes to systemic inequality. Those are the driving factors that that fuel the whole thing. Derek, you have any thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a complex issue, man, and it's a cluster of problems that stem from the system that has been implemented for centuries, right? It's working flawlessly for some people, but for others, and the majority, I think, especially people of color, we are, like you said, John, we're the collateral damage, and we are just really the the people who endure the symptoms of what the system was set up to do, right? So everything from not being able to own property, to not being able to vote, to not being able to have access to, capital or access to health, healthcare. And there's a litany of issues, right? A lot of what I do is around real estate and impact investing. And, you can be in the hood in Philly, LA, Miami, Atlanta, Birmingham, it don't matter. They all look the same, right? The culture is somewhat a little different, but the core fundamental issues are the same. And you're like, man, this is really by design. And what we focus on is trying to create equity in these neighborhoods, right? We're building facilities that address some of the inequalities and disparities around health. And every one of these areas is a food desert, right? And so there's this, this cluster of issues that, and they all kind of like feed off of each other. And it's like this, it's really this cycle that people kind of get trapped in, because you're getting opposition from all different angles. And so I think that what we, with Kingdom, what we focus on is trying to be a part of the solution and staying in our lane of getting access to capital for entrepreneurs and creating the facilities, whether it be for the youth or for, health diagnostic centers. And this is or affordable housing, that's the lane that we kind of play in. And, it's a lot of it is, complementary of the other efforts going on in the community. But there's just so many issues, man. I always tell people, if you look at social media and you look at all the issues going around, it's tempting to kind of have a knee-jerk reaction and say, look, oh man, I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to do this. And you kind of get overwhelmed to some extent. But I always say, take a minute to reflect and understand what you care about and what resonates with you, and then go find a way to get tapped into that cause or that, solution. And so I really believe that it's going to take all of us, and it's going to take a complex, it's going to take a complex plan and solution, because it's a complex problem.
Yeah, it is. It is. And Derek, you reminded me as I'm listening to you how I got more conscious and aware of this on the plant-based side. So I've been plant-based for about 1.5 years now, and it started for me for performance reasons. So I'm a old college basketball player. In my mind here, I just try to hold on to my level of fitness for as long as I can, and so I work out, try to do that. At least I thought I had a pretty good diet routine, and then about 1.5 years ago, ran into this cardio machine called the VersaClimber, and they probably have it at the Titans workout facility, the best cardio machine in my opinion ever. And so trained myself up, and then I did it off of my old diet, suboptimal results, switched to a plant-based diet after watching the movie The Game Changers, and it was like night and day. It was almost like a magic trick. And ironic. I did this thing where I climbed 10,000 feet on the VersaClimber in one go, and it's ironic because Facebook reminded me that I did that a year ago today. Came in, knocked it out, and that was because I was on a plant-based diet. Did that, worked a full day at Google, went home and actually played basketball for about an hour and a half, 2 hours after that. And for me, I was like, I'm so, so performance reasons. And then so once I got into the dialogue even more, became more aware around sustainability, animal, how cruelty to animals, all those things there, and just a bigger picture of things that I was aware of anyway, but now I'm actually paying more attention because I'm experiencing it. And so I appreciate that, really appreciate that. And so now what we'll do is we're going to get our viewers involved here. We got a handful of questions here that were voted to the top. And for those that have additional questions, just go ahead and put them into the chat, into the comments piece on our group page, and we'll get you going. So with that, I got the first question here, and this one is for you, Derek. And this one is, the question is, did the game changers influence more NFL players to go plant-based?
Ooh. Man, that's a tough one. I think at the time of when I was with the Titans and my wife Charity was cooking, yeah, we had about I would say at the height about 22 guys who were on the meal delivery service, right? So my wife would do lunch and then she would come and do dinners. Our kitchen at home was a disaster because she was making all this stuff at home, but the food the end product was amazing. So I think, when guys, to your point, when you start to I think you experience most of the benefits right when you switch. It's like that, that honeymoon period where it's like, man, this is crazy. It's like a new normal, and you have more energy, you sleep better, you're more clear-headed, and that's the same benefits that I've recognized. And so I think guys, we used to eat before we went out in the field and practiced, and everybody know, you eat, you get that itis, you get real sluggish. But when you're eating clean and light, your digestive system is not really putting out a lot of energy to break down that food, so you can allocate that towards things like playing football. And so that was one benefit that guys immediately noticed, was we're going to eat this lunch, then we're going to go on the field, and I'm not going to really have that slump. And then a lot of guys, me included, we always weighed in, week to week, and we would get fined $600 a pound if we were over. So it was always very important for us to be in that 2 to 3 pound window, and cutting out. People think NFL is oh man, you're gonna get the best of the best ingredients and food. Man, they'd be cooking pork chops on the grill outside, fried chicken, hot dogs, and it's really we're supposed to be, these Ferraris and Lamborghinis in terms of our bodies, and we're putting, regular unleaded fuel into it. Why aren't we eating the highest quality ingredients? But, during that window where my wife was cooking, man, a lot of us were on. Now, I don't know outside of the Titans organization. I know there are sprinkles of guys around the league who are vegan. Cam Newton, Malcolm Jenkins, I think, that plays for the Saints, is vegan. Obviously, Kaepernick was vegan as well, or is vegan. So I think there's a lot of sprinkles of guys who are kind of waking up to the fact that, I could really eat plant-based and not get pushed around on the field and still perform at a high level.
Yeah, it's funny. I told Charity this in our first episode. Last year in the playoffs, Titans against the Ravens, I was actually pulling for the Ravens, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm a Lamar Jackson fan. But when the Titans came into town and beat them convincingly, I was in shock, I got to admit. But then I started to think, because I'd seen the Game Changers a few months before, I'm like, wow, I bet all those guys are on the diet. And to your point, who knows totally, but I'm like, hey, that's another data point for me. So appreciate that answer.
Yeah.
So now we'll move on to the next question here. And this is open for anybody, but we'll start with you on this one, Jasmine. And this question is, how can we support people who live in food deserts where access to fresh produce might be limited?
How can you support? One, you can always be supportive by just educating yourself so you're aware of the problem. And most cities, they have organizations geared towards helping people in these communities. So if you can donate your time I know now with COVID, it's hard to volunteer, so you can donate with your dollar. You can help by, just spreading the word amongst your friends and family members, kind of letting them know about this issue. And what else? If there's any way you can participate on a political level, if you're involved in civic engagement, when you make a difference with you make a difference with how you vote. So me, I'm an artist. So when I want to help with a certain issue, I use my art to do so. If I was a photographer, I would go out and I would take photos. If I was an actress, yeah, you get it.
Got it. Great. Yeah, John, any thoughts on that? Oh, actually, I think you're on mute, John.
Definitely on mute.
There you go.
Sorry about that. I think also to couple what Jasmine's saying is that you vote with your dollar as well. A lot of people don't realize that. One of the biggest lines, there's a line by Lupe Fiasco, and he talks about, he says, if you don't support the liquor store, then what you buying liquor for? And it's basically saying, like, a lot of people talk junk about the liquor stores, but then they still go buy liquor from, Costco or somewhere else. It's still going to the same bank account. The same thing goes with the meat industry or whatever. It's like, if you want to support these people getting good food, you need to buy the good food as well. And what a lot of people fail to realize too is you don't have to shop in your neighborhood just because you live in this great neighborhood. If you go closer to these people that are disenfranchised and don't have the capabilities that you have, if you go to their neighborhood and you start to buy more plant-based products, I'm not even saying like Beyond Meat or whatever, but if you're buying more fruits and vegetables and you're buying it from that area, guess what? That store they don't care about people necessarily. They care about numbers. They care about money. If they see more money is being bought or being spent on fruits, vegetables, rice, nuts, seeds, all that stuff, they're going to bring more of that to those stores. So I think a lot of times people don't realize you can go to these other neighborhoods and help out. You don't even have to talk to the people. You don't even have to talk to anybody. Just go there, do that. That's a form of activism right there that you didn't have to make a big announcement about, but your dollar spoke volumes. And imagine if all these other people started doing that. I'm all about percentages. So I started thinking, like, if 10% of people started doing that, they started going to these other neighborhoods and purchasing that stuff, because we started looking at with doing the film, the word food desert, sometimes it's really not food desert, it's nutrition desert. There's food in these areas, but there's no nutrition in the food. So we need to start providing food that has nutrition, and that also comes from the dollars that's being spent. Because these convenience stores, if more people bought fruits and vegetables when they came to the convenience store, guess what? The convenience store would have more fruits and vegetables because they're making money off that. But right now, they're making money off of the processed junk with the high fructose corn syrup, processed sugar, the animal protein. They're making money off that. So they're going to keep providing that. So that's other ways that we can kind of step up and help people out.
Wow. The power of behavior change is what I think about with that.
Yeah.
Change our behaviors and our choices. Yeah. Yeah. Derek, did you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think John covered it pretty good.
Great. Great. Cool. We'll move on to the next question here. And this one is for John and Jasmine. This question is, what are the biggest lessons you learned while filming your documentaries?
Jasmine, it's funny because Jasmine and I have actually talked about this before. I think the biggest thing, and I'm sure Jasmine would agree, for me, is understanding that it's a hurry up and wait kind of system to make a film. It's like you're in a rush to get things done, and then you might have a talent or a management or something like that you're trying to provide all this information for, get this paperwork signed, get everything going, and then you wait for 3 months. And you're like, oh, well, I thought you wanted to do this now. And they're like, oh, we're so sorry we didn't get back to you. Yeah, we're still interested, or something else moved on and you never hear from them again. So it's being okay with everybody's not on the same page as you and they're not as excited about the mission that you're on, but you have to just keep moving. You got to keep going no matter what.
And then I would say, I was unaware of what I would learn on my project. So before, full disclosure, I wasn't really on board for veganism for the animals. Not to say I don't like animals or I wanted to see, them being treated cruelly. It just wasn't a part of my platform. So when I interviewed everyone and they started talking about why they are plant-based because of the animals, it was the first time I heard animal rights broken down to me from people of color. And it was the first time I
Mhm.
heard, like, oh, well, here are the reasons, even stuff like when you think of how we eat and how cruel we are to animals, it's like, where did we get that cruel behavior? Where did we get the behavior where when we live with someone, when we live with another being that's different from us, we should oppress that being. That's a
Mhm.
behavioral pattern that we kind of learn through slavery. Because when I think about African people, even though they did eat meat, there was a spiritual component to it. There was respect for life. There was a respect for the land. And when you killed an animal, you ate every part of it. You used the skin for clothes, and you prayed over it, and you had that respect for life. So I kind of learned about, those aspects of animal rights through this project.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Powerful. And then this next question here, actually, we're going to start with you, Jasmine, and then we'll just go around. Yeah, Derek and John, you can jump in after Jasmine here. But this one is around cultural biases, because you touch on this in your documentary. What are your thoughts on how to help shift cultural biases around plant-based eating?
So, me personally, the way I try to help with the shift, I addressed it head on in my work. In my film, I call it out. It's like, hey, dear white people, when you promote veganism and mainstream vegan movements, you are using white people, you're using heteronormative people, you're using thin people, you're using affluent people. So, just kind of like letting people, creating awareness. And even
Mm-hmm.
in our own, and even whatever space we're in, whatever work we're doing, just making sure that we're inclusive in our own projects. Because even me looking back now, I wish if I could turn back the hands of time, I would have included, just even more body types, more images of different body types, more images of people who have different sexual orientations. So just being aware and calling out a lack of diversity when we see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in a
Derek or John?
productive way, calling it out in a productive way. I'm not about like woke, mean call out culture, but I am, a believer of just letting people know, hey, friend, this is the dynamic I see happening. Can we shift?
Yeah. Yeah. Derek or John?
Yeah, I mean, maybe y'all can help me with this because this is something I hit my head against the wall with, even dealing with my own parents, right? I think it's a generational thing of like, there's like, for example, my wife's mom came in. Hope she don't see this, but she's Puerto Rican, and we heard her on the phone complaining to one of her other daughters, like, yeah, they got me out here eating organics and eating vegans, and I was like, wait, like she thinks it's like a whole different class of food, like it's Chinese food, Italian, vegan. And I'm like, no, this is just food, Nana. Like this is gonna help you get off your blood pressure medicine, and this is gonna help you have more energy. And like, but same with my dad. Like my dad come in the house, he's like, where the chicken at? I'm like, bro, it ain't no more chicken here. Like we don't do that no more. And so like we kind of like gotta educate him and almost not even tell him sometimes like he know we're vegan now, but when we first started out, we would just put a plate in front of him and let him eat it. You know what I'm saying? And then when he found out it was vegan, he'd be like, there was no way that was vegan type of thing. But like there's like this implicit bias that like, if you eat vegan, you're going to shrivel up and die. Yeah, I seen the movie Game Changers, cool, that works for y'all, but A, I can't afford it, and B, I don't even know where to start. And C, like eating is your oldest habit. And so it's just like I don't really know, like, because a lot of what I evangelize is the scientific results, right? Same with you, Larry. I started for performance reasons. So if
Mm-hmm.
I show people my blood panels, like, look, my C-reactive protein, which is your inflammation, is gone. I had high blood pressure 3 months ago. Now look at it, it's perfect. And like I kind of walk them through that because that to me is like, okay, that makes sense, right? That would click. But it's just, man, it's like these ingrained behaviors and conditioning that there, I mean, look at all the marketing that we've been, conditioned to believe that, meat is this and vegetables are this. And so there's a lot of like indoctrination that has been going on over the last couple of decades, just in terms of marketing and messaging. And so I think, man, it is racial to some extent, but I think it's generational in my opinion, man. And I'm all ears, man. I hope y'all could give me some some advice on that.
Yeah, I can relate with the generational piece. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I would say just a couple with what they're both saying is that I think also too, Derek and Jazz, and I think what we're doing already is what's kind of getting rid of that bias. So I think we have to be the example that people see. I think just using social media as an example, a lot of times people will send, Derek's page to somebody, or they'll send my page to somebody as, oh, look, they're vegan, you can do this. I'm like, no, no, no. I think if you really want to show somebody an example of how veganism works and, getting rid of racial bias, getting rid of all these biases, you have to be that example because they know you personally. So if I'm going to talk about the health aspects of veganism, I have to be the healthiest person I can be so I can be the example for my family and friends that know me directly. If I'm going to talk about getting rid of I'm very big on having a diverse friend group. Like my friends are diverse from every race to every sexual orientation, whatever it is. But we have to show people that that's okay. And I'm sure Derek can attest to this for me on this, and Jasmine probably too. Growing up in my neighborhood, in my community, like you said, sometimes your parents, and I hope my mom doesn't see this, but she probably will, you know, they our generation wise, our parents think that they are not prejudiced to a lot of things, but they are. Like my mom has gay friends, but she'll talk crap about the gay friends behind closed. I'm like, no, mom, that's not how you do it. Like you have to be like, that's my gay friend, and I'm happy for his decisions. Not when you're around him, everything's okay, but as soon as he leaves, like, yeah, there goes the gay guy, like. And I think that goes for everything, whether it's, like Derek said, that people think that veganism is a whole nother food group. It's just food. People are just people. Food is just food. And if we get back to that kind of reality of like, no, let's just treat everybody great. Let's treat this food great. There won't be so many biases. There won't be so many divisions between that. So I think it's just a matter of us being that example, though. Us showing people that, like, no, I can hang with this person. I can eat this food. I'm happy. I'm healthy. And you can do this too. This is not I'm not a special person because I eat vegan, saying like anybody can do this. I'm not this superb being because I hang with everybody. I think that's something that we have to get used to. And I want to apologize to anybody that hears any like noise in the background. We're setting up the set for the interview I got after this for the film. So I'm actually like literally in a studio. So apologize for the dark and the
Oh,
noise.
good. That's exciting, getting the work done, and your sound's coming through fine, John. This next question here, we pretty much touched on it through conversation, but I did want to honor this person's question, and if there's any other thoughts that you want to add, you can. But the question is, how can we better communicate the health and environmental benefits of plant-based eating to communities of color? So I think we touched on that, but did anybody have any other thoughts on that?
I would say, kind of, if just be aware of whatever your orientation is, because that is going to bring a package with it and how the message is delivered. So if you are, and even though you don't want to make it about race and all this other kind of stuff, but like say you're a white woman and you're going into a community of color and you're talking to, some black girl telling her you need to eat this way. It's like, even though you don't mean anything as a white woman, it might be perceived a little bit different because of the kind of social and political context we're in now. So kind of just being aware of what baggage you might bring, being aware if you are even the best messenger for a certain community. Because even with me, the reason I don't like to preach the vegan word to people is because if I'm telling you you should go vegan and your doctor is telling you you should eat meat twice a day, it's like, it's going to make me look like I don't know what I'm talking about. So I might refer you to something with doctors. I might say like, oh, well, why don't you check out my doc, or check out Forks Over Knives. So then it's a more appropriate messenger that fits the situation. And then also just being aware that people of color, we've been told that we need to change so much, that we need to be refined, that we need to be more sophisticated, that is getting to the point where we get a little triggered when people tell us that we need to do something in order to be accepted by the population. So also realizing that you are dealing with that trigger when you're telling people in communities of color how they need to eat in order to be accepted.
It's a great point because it can feel like this is another area where I'm not measuring up or I'm failing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next question?
No, I think she hit it on the head, actually.
Yeah, great. Cool. Next question. This is an open question for anybody. Outside of the films available, what specific resources should we read to learn more about the social justice issues regarding eating vegan?
That's a great question. I honestly don't have anything on that myself. I know there's some great books out there, and I believe also they've not been on the like larger publication side, but they're
Mhm.
very well known within the community. Jasmine might know more than me on that one, but I know there's some books out there that I hear people talk about randomly that talk about the racial inequalities and eating a certain way and stuff like that. And from time to time, when I ask for book recommendations, people will say something on my page, but on the top of my head, I don't have anything right now.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. Either Derek or Jasmine, any thoughts?
So one book that I just read recently, because I can't pull, I'm not one of those people that can pull up stuff from the top of the dome, but one book that I read recently was Prison Food in America by Erica Camplin. And I mean, that's a whole nother area of justice within the food system. So I would check out that, or kind of reach out to organizations directly that work in food justice and ask for them to refer you to appropriate resources.
Yeah, yeah. Good point. And actually, on that thing, as I'm staring at that question, I don't have any additional resources as well. But one thing I tend to do in situations like this is I level up. Like, so what is the issue of the day? Social justice in this case, or eating vegan. And I just begin to think about statistically, how do things skew from a race point of view, age point of view, et cetera. So if you rewind back when COVID-19 was, really picking up in America, people are sick, people are dying. That's horrible news. And then if you double click into that, okay, what's the breakdown or the proportions of how this is affecting people? And sadly, people of color, people in marginalized situations, or people with, compromised health were the ones that were the bulk majority of that. And so that's typically what I do. And then from there, I start to look around for resources. Yeah. So appreciate that. Cool. Next one here. Are there frozen and canned fruits and vegetables? Are there frozen and canned fruits and vegetables in these food deserts? Is there a business opportunity to deliver subscription healthy food in these areas? Yeah, open for anybody.
Yeah, I as a part of the film, actually, that's one thing I looked at was that I wanted it to be solution based. I wanted the film to be solution based. So one thing I did look at was how to provide a subscription service or something. I actually did talk to one of the higher ups at Whole Foods about maybe providing a free delivery service to the people that watch the film. Like they still had to pay for the food, don't get me wrong, but they didn't have to per se pay a subscription service or anything. As of right now, there's nothing really that's delivering to communities that actually need this. So it is an opportunity if anybody comes up with it because it's definitely needed.
Yeah, yeah. Any other thoughts?
No, I think John covered it. And I would say they need to do a better job at just marketing to community, marketing to these communities how important it is to eat healthy.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a business opportunity. I like how you broke down, John, earlier about the supply and demand aspects of it. So, if we
Yeah.
making the right choices can actually influence what stores provide. And then like the reverse of that I'm seeing is that if I'm a business or a company that provides healthy food, hey, if I can just broaden the range of choices, that plus awareness, that plus marketing, engagement, that can help to inspire good, healthy eating choices for that population, which in turn can hopefully drive demand, and like everybody's getting better. It's a business opportunity on that respect, but the bigger aspect or the bigger impact is that people are eating healthier. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And there's
makes
a big
sense.
window that I think a lot of these stores miss is that, when I talked to he was the vice president of Whole Foods, matter of fact, and I told
Mhm.
him, I said, you can go to Whole Foods a block away from a family, and they might not still come because let's say they got two kids, they got to get the kids in the car, or they got to carry the kids, and then they can bring the kids back. There's so many aspects that I think, like what Jasmine was saying, is there's so many things that people have to unpack, that they've been dealing with forever, that a lot of people don't understand when they're like, well, just go vegan. It's like, no, no, no. There's a lot of things I have to do to even get to that point, to even get to the store. And then I got to come back with bags in my hand and two kids. And there's so many things. Like one thing we touched base on the film is that, like, how, you know, in here in LA, you can only carry two bags on the bus per person from a grocery store. If you got a family of six people, what are you gonna do?
Not gonna work.
Like how many
Yeah.
times are you gonna go to the grocery store on the bus in a week? So there's a lot of things. So that's why I think that there is an opportunity for a store or a company that wants to provide this delivery service at an affordable cost too, because there's delivery services out there that deliver plant-based food, deliver whatever food, but is it affordable for the family? Like you got to look at the long run. Is yeah, you might not make the most off of the front end of the business venture, but in the long run, if you can supply food for somebody that subscribes to you for a year, and that trickles down, and people start to catch on to that, you're going to make your money. But I think one of the biggest problems is that people are looking at the money up front and not the money long term.
hmm Yeah, getting that quick return versus fully invested and staying there. Yeah,
Right.
makes sense. Yeah, this next question here is for you, Derek, actually. And this one is what are some of your favorite plant-based meals that you have? And do you have any tips that you can share on preparing? I guess this one might get over in the charities world a little bit too, but the question for you.
All the way.
Um, let's see. Okay, so my wife, she makes this fish and chips, and it's a straight up like, I don't want to give away all the recipes, but it's made out of what is it? Banana flowers, and it's like, it has the same texture of like a fried fish, and I mean, that's the one thing that she's been testing out lately that I had several goals at, which is probably
Hmm.
why I need to go back home and work out, because I skipped my workout this morning. But she's like testing out a lot of recipes right now, and so like in terms of like preparation, man, like, phew, I've been trying to get back in the kitchen, but like my domain is literally at the grill. And so like if I'll grill some vegetables, or I'll grill some Beyond Meats, or whatever, but like I am not your go-to. You could probably look at my wife's website, chefcharitymorgan.com, or follow her on IG, same at, Chef Charity Morgan, but like I'm not even gonna act like I know what I'm doing in the kitchen, because I don't.
All good. Actually, there's a quick follow-up question that came along this, and this is for you, Derek, and then others, Jasmine and John, you can chime in as well. What is your favorite plant-based dish for Thanksgiving, since we're coming up into the holidays here?
It's gotta be mac and cheese. We did a vegan Thanksgiving 2 years in a row, and last year
Mm.
was all of our family. Like none of our family like is vegan, but they knew what time it was, so they flew out from Cali and drove in from Georgia, and like we had a straight up vegan Thanksgiving. So like the main thing that we do differently is just, we don't necessarily have a turkey, but everybody knows what time it is with Thanksgiving. It's all about the sides. So the cream corn, like the greens, the mac and cheese, the cornbread, I think she made like a sweet potato cheesecake, and like this is all vegan, right? And so like it's just, we had everybody at the table, like, man, I can't believe this is vegan, right? And so the mac and cheese my wife makes is definitely crazy. That's my go-to.
Is that recipe on her site by chance? I'm like very curious now.
I'm not sure. You got to check that out. I'm not sure. I don't know if
Okay.
she's giving that one away yet.
Okay. All right. We have to bring her back for the next talk to beg her
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
do it. Great. Jasmine and John, any your favorite dish for Thanksgiving?
I'm into pies, so I really like pies. I know one year I tried to
Mm.
do back in the day when they sell these vegan turkeys in the store with stuffing. I would just say no.
Nah,
No.
I would say avoid the tofu turkeys at all costs. All that.
The
Ooh,
tofurkey, the tofurkey.
terrible.
No.
It's terrible. Terrible.
Oh, yeah, Charles Barkley, terrible,
Yeah.
terrible. Um, I personally, not to be a spokesman, but I don't celebrate most holidays that that have been given us. But I do believe in us getting together and
Mhm.
celebrating each other. So one thing that I've gotten good at is pecan pie, which because growing up non-vegan, I didn't grow up vegan, so and I was 315 pounds as a freshman in high school, so
Mm.
mom was baking some stuff. So I like to take my mom's old recipes and try to turn them vegan, what I'm saying? So yeah, the pecan pie was one thing that did good. I actually made a vegan gooey butter cake about a year ago. It didn't taste exactly like mom's, but I think if I keep working on it, it'll come up. And I've actually had Charity's mac and cheese, and it's no joke. So it'll probably be in that book. And I will say this, Derek, she gave me a tip, and I think you know about it, of course. But I'm in the process of writing my book now too, and meal prep is one of the big things. And she instilled in me about the different sauces throughout the week. I think that
Mm.
helped out a lot. Like what Charity taught me was in regards to you can make the same thing throughout the week. Let's say you make rice, beans, and some kind of vegetable to go with it, and to change it up throughout the week, and you're still saving money. You make 5 different sauces for the week or 3 sauces. So now Monday you use this one sauce, it gives a totally different taste and texture. By Wednesday you use another sauce, and from what Charity told me, it's like with the kids that helped her out, because the kids feel like they're eating something different throughout the week, and then for somebody else, that's trying to meal prep, that helps out too. So
Yeah.
I think that's a. I'm not even gonna take credit for that. That's a Charity Morgan classic right there.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, and for those that are listening, yeah, charity chefcharitymorgan.com
Yeah.
is the resource there. Actually, both Jasmine, you and John touched on something that has me super curious. Desserts, because I got to confess, like exercise, used to play ball, all that stuff, but I am a sugar bug. I'm a cookie monster. I love I love the pies and all that. And then in my journey with going plant-based. I think, well, sugar is a plant technically. Like, hey, so it
Right.
might be okay. And this kind of gets into the next question here is because you can go vegan, but you can still eat unhealthy too. Like there is, junk food vegan types of things, or just overdosing on the wrong types of foods. And then with sugar, there's processed sugar, natural sugar, etc. Even honey is another topic to discuss as well. But I say all that to just lead into this question is what advice can you share about eating healthy and enjoying yourself during the holidays?
I think one thing to point out is when people talk about eating unhealthy for the holidays, it's okay if for the other 360 days you have somewhat of a decent diet. But what you have now is people are eating like it's a holiday every day of the year. And then on holidays, they're just eating super crazy. So I would say to the person, if you are that person where like during the year you're handling your business on the holidays, yeah, wild out. But if because it's okay. It's only four, 3, 4 times a year. And it's okay to wild out 3 or 4 times a year. But if you are that person and you're eating garbage like every day, we don't even need to have a conversation about like holiday feasts. We just need to have a conversation about your overall lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Derek or John, any
I
thoughts?
can't. What thought can you say after that? That's it. Like that was it. You know, like that literally was it. Like and she's right. We have people that literally eat like a holiday the whole year, and then their ego kicks in. Well, like you know what? It's the holiday. I'm gonna do this anyway. It's like yeah, but you've been eating like this all year. So I think if somebody ate more unprocessed and you know more healthy, then of course those 4 days a year it's not going to affect you. Like that's like people always looking for a cheat day, but it's like yeah, but you've been cheating all year already.
Right.
Yeah. What's your reference point? Yeah, that
I'm
makes
guilty of
sense.
that. I ain't gonna lie. My cheat day sometimes turns into the whole weekend, and I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna get this workout in. You know, that's how I kind of justify it sometimes. Because
Yeah,
my wife,
awesome.
like I said, my wife's in recipe testing mode right now. So I'm just like, I come into the kitchen every day, it's something new. It's a sweet potato cheesecake, it's a Oreo pie, or it's a pound cake, and I'm just like, yo, you're killing me. I can't even like, I'm trying to slim down a little bit, and you're just like completely negating my plans. But like, if I don't work out, like for me, this the way I do it is like I got to get my workout in, and I somewhat look at my calorie intake to make sure I'm not like going overboard. And then to all y'all points, is like on the weekend, or I try to we call it Fat Fridays in our home. We end up just ordering out, or pigging out on something, but like it's just having the balance and not being so hard on yourself if you do slip up. Because I'm gonna be real with you, like when the pandemic first hit, like I was drowning myself, in carbs and sugars, and I was just eating crazy because I was just, whatever. I was trying to cope. And then when I got out of that, it's like, all right, I'm back on my routine. I'm gonna let myself go. I'm not go. I'm give myself some grace, like on a Friday or something, or a Saturday, and then I balance it out with the rest of the week. So it's about like what 80-20 rule, I think people call it, just having some balance.
Yeah.
You got that pandemic 15, Derek.
Man, you know what? I dropped it. I shed it though. I went on a nice little fast and I shed it and kept it off. So,
There
but
you
nah,
go.
definitely was there. Definitely.
Great,
And
great. So yeah, so we just got a few more minutes. Oh, go ahead, Jasmine.
Oh, and to his point, like relapse is a part of the process, and that's the part that we don't talk about. Like if you're trying to form a new habit, when you relapse, a lot of people they'll feel really bad and they'll beat themselves up, and then they develop a negative relationship with whatever new habit they're trying to build. And I would say take yourself off the hook. If you mess up, it's okay. Get back on the bandwagon when you can.
Yeah, being
I like,
resilient.
I
It's
like
a part of the journey of
oh
life.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
No, just going on what Jasmine said, like we always, I'm sure all of us have heard, like somebody was like, well, I was vegan, but then I took this trip out of the country and they didn't have vegan food, so I just stopped being vegan. It's like, no, but you came back to the country, like you that didn't mean you had to stop being vegan forever. Like,
Then the story stopped. Yeah,
like it's okay. You gonna go to
yeah,
your cousin's
exactly.
birthday or a barbecue, you're gonna be doing something like you might be able to withstand it and you're okay. But if you do slip up, that doesn't mean you quit your whole journey. That just means you acknowledge what happened and then you keep moving forward.
Exactly. Exactly. Part of the journey. Part of the journey. Great. Now, quick question
Yeah.
for you, John. Actually, we're getting a lot of good questions in the chat about your movie because it has not come out yet. You're almost ready with it, but I guess there's a lot of interest around when does it debut or the timeline of it. You can share any thoughts on that you can.
I wish I had a definite date. Yeah, I wish I had a definite date. We're actually finishing up this week and then we're submitting the film to a couple film festivals and then we should have to negotiate with, the proper outlet that we're going to be on after that. So our goal is to have it out by the end of the year. By the time people start their New Year's resolutions and everything's ready to go from there. But again, negotiations could lead anywhere at this point. So I don't want to make anybody a promise that is not, that I can't keep up.
Yeah, that's fair. Part of the process, which is what we talked about earlier with making a documentary, which makes sense. We'll do one last question here, and then after that, I wanted to give each of you just a chance just for our closing thoughts before we wrapped it up here. But this one question is, and this is for, I guess we'll start with you, Derek, on this one. And this is the Beyond Burger versus the Impossible Burger versus any other type of plant-based burger that's out there. What do you recommend?
Um, so it depends on what am I recommending for taste, health,
Oh,
right?
good, cool.
It's different, it's different types of recommendations. Now,
Very
I
true.
gotta be careful what I say because I'm a Beyond Meat ambassador. But I feel like they are both comparable, right? I think Beyond Meat, it's they got I like their products overall,
Okay.
just in terms of like they got the breakfast sauces, the links, the burgers, the ground chuck, like all those things. I think that's a great transitional food for people who are trying to get into vegan, vegan or being a vegan or eating vegan. Um, but I'm biased, man. My wife makes this patty from scratch, and it's coming for both of them. You know what I'm saying? I think that in terms of flavor and texture and like the whole package of like, okay, this is a whole food. I think that's the best option. Hopefully that'll be out to the masses sooner than later. Stay tuned. But I think they both have their differences, like pros and cons to each of them. I'll let y'all take that question.
Jasmine and John, any preference or vote?
So I agree with Derek when I think it's a good transitional food because I try not to really do too many kind of mock meats unless I'm, cheating. But to me, it almost comes down to where I'm at. Say if I'm at a restaurant, like most likely they're not gonna have Beyond and Impossible. They're only gonna have one or the other. Usually grocery
True.
stores are like, so if I'm looking for that, usually I just buy whatever's available.
That's fair. Yeah, yeah.
I, I'd have to say I'm universal on both of them. I think with us too, we know somebody at one of the companies. Like you don't want to offend anybody, but I will say this though.
It's a slippery question.
I'm like, man, I'm gonna go see this. And he gonna be all on my head about this. But I will say a lot of people have not tried the field roast burger.
Hmm.
And the field roast burger, if you're talking about flavor, man, it's on a it has this outstanding flavor. And I will say, a lot of people look at ingredients and stuff like that. It's probably one of the most cleaner ones out of
Hmm.
all of it, but the flavor is just texture is crazy. So Phil Roast has a good if anybody that's looking outside of just the mainstream, Phil Roast has one too to look at.
Got it. Great. Well, that was a great question to. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I said I didn't even know they did burgers. So I'm gonna try that.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it's good.
Very cool. Yeah, well, good. That's a good question to end on. And so we'll just go around the horn here. And Jasmine, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to John, and then Derek, you can close us out. Just any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Okay, so we're talking about food and eating. I would just leave people with know that what you eat is something that for a long time has just been habitual, but there's a lot of power in that choice
Hmm.
because whatever you eat, that's what you put your dollar behind. So it's like, okay, how is my dollar affecting the environment? How is it affecting other sentient beings? How is this dollar affecting my health? And even when you think about price points of a plant-based diet and you say, oh, it's more expensive, also think about quality because at the end of the day, Payless is less expensive than, I guess Louis Vuitton or something. But it's like, what kind of quality are you getting with Payless shoes? So with food, think about it the same way. How many nutrients am I
Hmm.
getting for my dollar? Like that's something to think about too.
Got it. Great. John.
I would say because I know a lot of people, they're scared to transition because of tradition, but like one of the quotes I love is tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. Like you're worried about a tradition about somebody that's not even here anymore, and they don't have to live the life that you have to live. And to go along with what Jasmine said, a lot of times we fall into the point of we know where our car came from, we know where our clothes came from, we know where our electronics came from, we know where All these things are from our cosmetics, but so, you ask somebody where their food came from, they can't tell you the last thing. We have to be more conscious of what we're putting in our body and on our body, because we forget that the skin is the largest organ we have on our body. You know, we'll ingest organic food or what we think is organic, but we'll put, like she said, like the $2 lotion, you know, the petroleum jelly on our skin, and we wonder why we still have complications. So you just be conscious of what's going on, and don't be afraid to change for the better for yourself. Like, and anybody that doesn't agree with you changing for the better for yourself, that lets you know about them. That's somebody that you don't need.
Hmm. Yeah, powerful. Derek, you can close us out here.
Yeah, I would just echo both of what you guys are saying, man. I think what you're doing, what you guys are doing in terms of spreading the awareness, really like helps change the whole narrative around this space, and just more broadly the conversation around inequality, right? There's so many components to it. I think what we're all kind of doing, we all have like our own distinct ways of being part of that solution, and I think it's going to take more and more examples and efforts like what we're doing, right, to be effective in changing this narrative. And so I'm really encouraged by the work that you guys are doing. I'm glad to be a part of the conversation, and I'm hoping that we can have more conversations like this that result in actual tangible change in our communities.
Great. Excellent. Well, I definitely want to appreciate and thank all of you just for your time. I know all of you have busy schedules. You're doing a lot of amazing work. And I know I'm definitely just grateful to just have this time just to have the conversation with you, to sit here on screen and be able to do that. And then I also did want to thank all of those who are listening and watching that were out there. Really appreciate all the questions that are coming in and all the chat activity that I see over here on the side. So it was a really great, engaging time. And so I definitely appreciate that. And so with that, again, thanks to everyone for this. And this would close out our second segment here.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody that came in, too.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.
See you guys. Cool.